Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. We're going to talk about manga sales, manga and comic book sales. That My Hero Academia has hit a new sales milestone. It's sold a ridiculous amount of copies of manga, and I want to talk about the difference between manga sales and North American comic book sales, and just how terrible North American comic book sales look compared to what's going on in manga right now. And you're definitely seeing a shift. And I think a lot of the American readers who would have bought X-Men or Spider-Man comics 20 years ago are now the same audience that are buying manga and graphic novels. Just a theory based on what we can gather from sales charts, etc., etc. But we're also going to talk about how My Hero Academia has a new movie coming out. And it's going to get a wide release. It's actually going to be on 1,000 screens, which is kind of a big deal. That's actually more screens, I believe, than Broly got, Dragon Ball Super Broly, which actually made the news for bringing in quite a bit of money for an anime. So I think we're going to see more and more widespread theatrical releases of anime here in the States, which is always a good thing. I think it's a good thing. So before we get into it, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We're at about, 84,000 subs. Hoping for 100,000 soon. I did want to break up the Star Wars news this week. I know there's a lot of Star Wars news, but we're getting kind of burnt out on covering it. We already know what the movie is going to be like, right? And, we really do want to get back into covering more animation, more anime, more manga, and comics, and that sort of thing. That's what we started the channel to do. And we kind of got sidetracked with all the other drama going on. But this is coming from comicbook.com. My Hero Academia manga hits new sales milestone. We're talking 25 million copies. 25 million copies of My Hero Academia. And it's so weird that they're talking about this now, because just the other day I posted some of the sales numbers for Attack on Titan manga. I mean, this is what they sell every year in Attack on Titan manga. And we're talking, this does include, I think it includes US numbers too, but the US numbers are very, very small. In Japan, this is what they're selling in Japan, a country, a fraction of the size of the US. They're selling millions of copies of this manga every year. I mean, look, 2013, 2014, Attack on Titan, 15 million, almost 16 million copies. Almost 12 million copies in 1 year in a country, a fraction of the size of the US. We talked about this just to show you how small and how decimated the American comic book market has become, because I think even at its peak, recently, back in the early 90s, when American comics were doing really well with the X-Men and Spider-Man, etc., etc., I think Jim Lee's X-Men, if I recall correctly, sold 8 million copies, which was phenomenal. I mean, it was phenomenal sales, but still, that pales compared to what manga is doing now, and there's nothing even close to selling those numbers. Not even graphic novels from Scholastic here in the US, and we'll talk about that. So My Hero Academia is ramping up its 4th season, with Midoriya, his classmates, and professional heroes storming the gates of the villainous Overhaul and his Yakuza gang. Blah, blah, blah. With the Paranormal Liberation Front forming over 100,000 villains to its name, it's no surprise to see the sales for the manga continue to reach new heights. Yeah, series like this, shonen series like this, they basically they can go on forever. A lot of these can go on for, look at freaking Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball's been around forever, and they can always kind of just, introduce some new villains or a new challenge, or just kind of reinvigorate the franchise. And that's, My Hero Academia, I think, is going to be around for a long, long time. But it's sold 25 million total copies. 25 million copies. It's only been around for a few years. Twitter user Hero News Network shared the milestone that My Hero Academia has over 25 million copies of its manga out in circulation, proving that there is a huge need for fans of the heroic series. Yeah, this is crazy. It's only been around for 5 years. And it's only been in the US for the last couple of years, but it's huge. This manga is huge. It is Dragon Ball, I think, for today's generation. I really do. I know my kids love it. We've been watching it. It does seem like the kind of a series, like I said, it's kind of an evergreen property. I think this one could go on for years and years and years. and follow these characters, as they grow older, have kids, whatever. I think we're going to have decades, possibly decades, of My Hero Academia content, which is pretty cool. But now, go out to American comic book sales. I'm not trying to throw shade at the American comic book market, which is not in a very good place right now, or the graphic novel market. But you look at the graphic novel sales, and you can see how they're trending upwards, right? This is total. This is in a book scan. This includes manga. This includes all the Scholastic stuff. 2018, there were almost 12 million units sold in total in America of all the titles. In 2014, just in mostly Japan, I believe, there were as many copies of just Attack on Titan being sold. So it definitely puts things in perspective. Now, graphic novel sales do seem to be on an upward trend here in the US, while the floppy comics, monthly comics are on a decline. Manga is factoring into that. Manga is doing better and better. I think we've done some videos before talking about how manga has seen sort of a boom here in the US, and I think part of it is, beyond the accessibility, because most people aren't going to go to comic book shops anymore because we're running out of comic book shops. It's hard to find comic book shops now because so many are closing. But it's also the format. Kids today are used to larger chunks of stories. It doesn't really matter if the story is in black and white or not. To most people, they're interested in the characters, and manga has a much more diverse kinds of stories. And I'm not talking diversity as in, we've got the right kinds of people in the stories. What I'm talking about is the stories aren't just superhero stories. But ironically, the superhero style stories, the Dragon Balls and the My Hero Academias and the Narutos, those do sell very, very well. But there's such a huge choice in stories, kinds of stories that you can read in manga. And I think that has a lot to do with it. And people can buy manga anywhere. They can buy it off Amazon. They can get it through their school book orders, whatever. Go out here and look and see what the top selling graphic novels were in the US, and you'll find it's like Dogman, Dogman, which is selling very well, but man, it's all Dogman and Raina Telgemeier. And again, these books sell very well. I mean, you stack these books up against what they're selling at Marvel and DC, and these numbers are enviable. They really are. For graphic novels, they really are. Now, you have to realize that, maybe you have 150,000 copies of a Raina Telgemeier book, but that's one graphic novel versus maybe 150,000 copies of Batman every month for 12 months. It's a little bit different. Plus the trade sales, but still, it's impressive. And you go down the list, and I'll put links to all of this in the description for the video. But you're going to find that the Marvel and DC stuff actually doesn't sell that well. It really doesn't sell that well in the trades compared to this original content, the kid-focused content in the manga especially. But 25 million copies. Demon Slayer's manga sales might have beat One Piece. Again, you look at these numbers. Manga numbers compared to US numbers, and it's not even fathomable here in the US to conceive of any books selling these kinds of numbers. So what is going on? What are we doing wrong? I mean, obviously we're doing something wrong here in the States. We're definitely doing something wrong here in the States, I think, compared to Japan. You can't say that they have other media or other technology in Japan that prevents people, from reading comics. That's the excuse here. Like, well, we've got, anime and video games, etc. What do you think they have in Japan? Where do you think this stuff comes from? They've got anime and video games too. And people spend a lot of time on their phones over there. And they're still selling millions and millions of copies of manga. People are actually reading copies. Compare this to, what we sell in the US. And this is sales, of course, to comic book shops. But, they have a ticker tape parade if a comic sells over 100,000 copies these days. A mainline Marvel or DC book. It's most comics for most of these publishers. You're talking, 5 to 10,000 copies for the average comic book. It's pretty sad. You go out to Diamond. Now, this is graphic novels, and Diamond, again, graphic novel sales, most of them come from other channels, not Diamond, but 4,000 copies. I mean, this is sad. It's really sad to see. That there just doesn't seem to be the interest in comics here in the States as there is overseas. I'd like to know why. I really would. I'd like to know why. Anyway, My Hero Academia is set for a 1,000 screen release in North America. The second feature in the popular franchise will get a release around twice as wide as the first. It's going to be released on more than 1,000 screens in the US and Canada by early 2020 by Funimation. Second feature in the popular manga and anime franchise, first one, My Hero Academia 2 Heroes, good movie, brought in nearly 6 million in North America when it was released last year, putting it in the top 10 grossing anime films in the region. The new release will include both an English dub and English subtitled version. So this is My Hero Academia Heroes Rising. Will be released in Japan starting on Friday. So they're bringing it over pretty quick. Legendary bought the rights to a live action adaptation. I don't think I want to see that. I don't think this is one that's gonna do well. But you know, they had a hit last year with Dragon Ball Z Super Broly too. It did really well. You know, it was in 1,250 venues. So I think we're gonna see an opening similar to that. And again, this kind of, you know, the comparison I have between Dragon Ball and My Hero Academia, I think is pretty accurate. I think it basically is today's generation what Dragon Ball was to maybe our generation, kids growing up in the 90s and the 2000s. You know, My Hero Academia is incredibly popular. But this just shows that, like, manga is picking up momentum. You know, manga and anime are picking up momentum again, and this is what the kids are into. You know, it's so weird. We're crying about, you know, the end of the comic book industry, but, you know, in a weird way, it's not really the end of the comic book industry. It's just transitioning into something else. Kids are reading different kinds of comics, but they're still reading comics. There's still a massive, massive potential to reach all these kids. You know, you just have to create comics that they like. And, you know, I'm sorry, but a lot of the Marvel and DC stuff is not resonating with today's kids. It's just not. Very interesting. Look at these numbers. Just thought I would follow up on that because, you know, Japan makes us look very, very bad. They do. They usually do, but they make us look really bad over here. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we will talk later. Thinking about printing your own comic books, graphic novel, or manga? We recommend our friends over at PrintNinja. We've been using PrintNinja as long as they've been printing comics, and both the quality and price is excellent. Mention CLOWNFISH TV and get an additional 5% overrun of your book order quantity printed for free. For free! That's free books, people. Just mention this offer on the phone or in the additional information box on the quote request form. That's printninja.com, or click on the link in the description below. Hey guys, thanks for watching CLOWNFISH TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.